My wife lay screaming on the pavement, handcuffed, bruised, and begging them to stop. One officer barked at her to shut up. Another pressed a knee against her back. They didn't ask questions, didn't care who we were, they just acted. I didn't yell, I didn't move. I stepped forward, eyes locked with the SWAT captain, and said one sentence. Check your chain of command. I trained the man who trained you. The salute came seconds later. If you believe some ranks don't need to be worn to be respected, comment, stand tall below. My wife and I were dropping off donated clothes at a community shelter downtown. She parked near the sidewalk while I carried the bags inside. A commotion broke out across the street. A suspect had run through traffic. SWAT teams swarmed the area within seconds, searching, barking orders, confused by radio chatter. My wife matched a vague description someone had misheard. Female, gray hoodie near a red sedan. Before she could speak, they ordered her out of the vehicle at gunpoint. I rushed back, shouting, "She's not the one." A baton knocked me back. She screamed. They cuffed her, slammed her to the ground. The force was immediate, excessive, and humiliating. Her cries echoed. The crowd stared. Some recorded. Nobody intervened. An officer sneered. "You people always act like victims." Another joked. She should have kept her mouth shut. I helped veterans survive war zones quieter than this street corner, and now I stood watching the woman I love being treated like a criminal. For no reason, the autumn air was crisp that Tuesday morning when Claire and I loaded our car with the donations. 3 large bags of winter coats, blankets, and children's clothes, items we'd collected from neighbors for the annual veteran support drive. Clara wore her favorite gray hoodie, the one with "Support Our Troops" embroidered on the back. Ironic given what would happen next. The shelter was busy but organized. Volunteers greeted me warmly at the door. "Your wife's staying in the car?" one asked. "Just for a minute," I replied. "She's finding parking." I didn't know those would be the last peaceful moments of our day. The first indication of trouble was the sudden wail of sirens, then the squeal of tire, the thud of boots hitting pavement, tactical units positioned at corners, officers with weapons drawn. Through the shelter window I saw a red sedan. Clara was stepping out, hands raised in confusion at all the commotion. That's when they surrounded her. 5 officers shouting contradictory commands. "Hands up, on the ground, don't move, face down now." Clara froze, paralyzed by conflicting orders. I dropped the donation bags and ran toward the door. 2 shelter volunteers tried to stop me. "Sir, there's police activity." But I was already outside pushing through onlookers. I saw her face, the fear in her eyes, the confusion as she tried to comply with impossible demands. Then an officer grabbed her arm, twisted it behind her back. Another kicked her legs out from under her. She fell hard, face pressed against concrete, a knee on her back, cuffs tightened around her wrist. "Please," she cried. I didn't do anything. They ignored her pleas, treated her words like meaningless noise. I stood up, blood on my elbow, dirt on my knees. The SWAT captain approached, barking, "You interfering." I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Check your chain of command. I trained the man who trained you." He hesitated. I gave him my name, slow, clear. He reached for his radio. "Captain," the voice on the other end said. "That's Colonel Lucas Brennan, retired Tier 1 commander, Special Forces." The captain froze, turned to his team. "Uncuff her now." They hesitated. He barked louder, "Now." Officers moved fast. One helped my wife up. Another offered a water bottle with shaking hands. The captain turned to me and saluted, right there in front of his entire unit. My wife trembled, not from fear but from the emotional weight of being seen finally as human. A medic checked her bruises. The same men who mocked her now apologized. I didn't rush to her immediately. I stood my ground, eyes still locked with the captain's. 20 years of command presence doesn't fade in retirement. The radio squawked again. The voice on the other end continued. Colonel Brennan led the ghost teams in Fallujah, Kandahar, Mosul. The captain's face changed. Recognition dawned, not of my name but of my reputation. I'd never met him before, but he knew me, or rather he knew of me, of what I'd done, what I'd taught, sir. He said, his voice suddenly formal. "I trained under Commander Wyatt." That explained it. Wyatt was one of my best, carried my lessons forward. "Then you should know better," I replied quietly. My words weren't meant to shame, they were meant to remind. The crowd had grown. Phone cameras captured everything. The street had fallen eerily silent. Just the sound of Clara's ragged breathing. I walked to her slowly, deliberately. Dignity was the only weapon I needed now. The officers parted like water. Clara's face was scraped. a bruise forming on her cheek. Blood stained the Support Our Troops logo on her hoodie. I helped her stand, steadying her when she swayed. "I'm okay," she whispered, though we both knew she wasn't. The captain approached, removed his tactical gloves. "Ma'am, I deeply apologize for this mistake. Medical assistance is on the way." Clara stared at him, not with anger but with something worse. Disappointment. "A mistake." Her voice strengthened. "Is that what you call this?" The captain swallowed hard. "We received reports of an armed suspect, female, gray hoodie, red vehicle. So you attacked first and questioned later?" I asked. He had no answer. There was none to give. A female officer stepped forward, with a first aid kit. "May I?" she asked, Clara genuinely gentle. My wife nodded, allowing the woman to clean the scrape on her face. The actual suspect had been apprehended 3 blocks away. No weapons found, just a scared teenager who'd shoplifted and panicked. All this force, all this trauma, for nothing. The captain dismissed his team, keeping only 2 officers nearby. "Sir," he said to me, "this isn't how we're trained to operate." "Then why did you?" I asked. Again, no answer, just the weight of realization settling across his shoulders. The adrenaline had worn off now, replaced by the cold reality of what had happened. My wife, a 53-year-old school librarian volunteer, mother of 2 grown children, handcuffed and thrown to the ground, for being in the wrong place, for wearing the wrong color, for driving the wrong car. "Your commanding officer was Richard Wyatt?" I asked the captain. He nodded. "Yes, sir, at the academy and then in tactical training." "Then you know the first principle he teaches." The captain looked down. "See the human first, the threat second." "Exactly," I said. "You saw a threat today. You never saw the human." These weren't just words. This was the core of everything I'd taught for decades. What Wyatt had learned from me, what he should have passed on. Clara leaned against me, her body trembling from the aftermath of adrenaline. The paramedics arrived, professional and efficient. They led her to the ambulance, checked her vitals, cleaned her wounds properly. The captain stood nearby, radio in hand, reporting to superiors. I caught fragments. "Significant incident. Mistaken identity. Colonel Brennan involved. 2 hours ago, I was just a retired veteran driving donations to a shelter. Now I was Colonel Brennan involved." The power of that name, of who I had been, still echoed through the system, a power I'd never used for personal gain, until now, until they heard Clara. "If you believe dignity doesn't come with a badge, it comes with humanity. Comment respect below." A teenager's phone captured everything. The takedown, the screams, the sentence, the salute. That clip hit 6 million views in 24 hours. Veteran turns chaos into discipline with one line. The city launched an immediate investigation into the unit's conduct. The officer who mocked her, suspended SWAT protocol was overhauled. De-escalation training became mandatory. I was asked to speak at the academy. I declined, but I sent one message. "You don't have to shout to lead. You just have to know who you are." A week later, I received a handwritten apology from the SWAT captain. It read, "You reminded us what real leadership looks like." I'll never forget that. He attached a photo of him, with his team standing outside the same shelter, helping load donations. The first call came that evening from the mayor's office, then the police commissioner, then 3 news stations. Clara and I unplugged our phones, closed the blinds. She needed rest, quiet, space to process the violation. The bruises on her wrist darkened overnight, handcuff marks like bracelets. When she woke screaming at 3 a.m., I held her without words. Some traumas don't need conversation, just presence. By morning, the video had gone viral. Someone had added captions. "Watch what happens when SWAT meets a real commander." The comment sections exploded with veterans sharing similar stories. They stopped me at gunpoint for fitting a description, treated me like a criminal in the country I fought for. This colonel just did what we all wish we could. Clara watched the footage once, then refused to see it again. "I don't want to be a hashtag," she said. "I want to be a person." The district attorney called personally to apologize, explained the investigation would be thorough and transparent, asked if Clara wanted to press charges. She thought about it for 2 days, then decided no charges, but I want to meet with them, all of them, face to face. Her courage humbled me, always had. 3 days after the incident, the city held a press conference, announced immediate changes to police procedures. The SWAT team was temporarily reassigned to desk duty. New training protocols were implemented citywide. The police academy director called, asking me to lead a seminar. Your experience is invaluable, he insisted. These officers need to hear from you, I declined. Politely but firmly. I'm not your solution. I told him I'm just a symptom of your problem. He pressed, what do you mean, Colonel? It shouldn't take a retired commander to make your officers treat citizens with dignity. Silence on the phone, then point taken. Instead, I sent a one-page letter, simple, direct, not about tactics or procedures, about humanity. You don't have to shout to lead, you just have to know who you are. The Academy made copies, distributed it to every cadet, posted it in every precinct, briefing room. Words that shouldn't have been necessary but somehow were. The online attention intensified. Strangers recognized us at the grocery store. You're the colonel, they'd say. Or worse, you're the wife who got thrown down. Clara hated it. The reduction of our identities. The public consumption of our trauma. We stopped going out for a while. Neighbors brought meals. Friends formed a protective circle. A veterans advocacy group offered legal support. We declined most help, accepted the meals with gratitude. 10 days after the incident, a plain envelope arrived. No return address, just my name, handwritten. Inside, a letter from Captain Owen Vance, SWAT commander. Not a formal apology, not a legal document, a human acknowledgement. You reminded us what real leadership looks like. I'll never forget that. Attached was a photograph Vance and his team in civilian clothes, standing outside the same shelter where it all began, unloading donations, working alongside volunteers. No cameras, no publicity, just service. Small redemption in a complicated world. Clara read the letter twice, then placed it in her journal. It's a start, she said simply. The investigation continued. Officials reviewed body camera footage, interviewed witnesses, analyzed radio communications, found systemic failures at multiple levels, misheard descriptions, escalation without verification, command structure that rewarded speed over accuracy. The city council held emergency sessions, new policies drafted, community oversight expanded. Words that looked promising on paper, would they translate to reality? Time would tell. Clara and I watched from a distance, neither cynical nor optimistic, just aware that systems change slowly, if at all, but individuals, they can transform in an instant, like a SWAT captain freezing mid-command, like officers shifting from aggression to respect in seconds, all from one sentence that bridged two worlds. The warrior I had been, the civilian I had become. My wife still flinches when sirens wail, but she holds her head higher now. She told me, they tried to take away my dignity. You gave it back without raising your voice. More volunteers arrived at the shelter after the video spread. Veterans, teens, even a few officers. They don't ask for photos. They show up, work and listen. On Veterans Day, the SWAT captain visited me off duty in plain clothes. He didn't speak much, just stood in silence, then saluted slower. This time more sincere. This time he said, I know who I'm saluting. Clara returned to work at the library 2 weeks later. Children noticed her fading bruises, asked innocent questions. I fell down, she told them. Simple, true enough. But the older ones knew, had seen the video, heard their parents talking. One 13-year-old girl stayed after closing. My dad's a police officer, she said quietly. He's not like those men. Clara hugged her. I know, sweetheart, most aren't. Wisdom beyond her years. Recognition of nuance in a black and white world. Our neighborhood changed subtly after the incident. Neighbors checked in more often, brought coffee unannounced. Not out of pity, out of community. The shelter director called, asking if we'd still volunteer. We understand if you don't want to come back, she said. Clara didn't hesitate. We'll be there Saturday, same time. Courage is an absence of fear. It's presence of purpose. The investigation concluded after 6 weeks. 3 officers disciplined, 1 terminated. Captain Vance reassigned to training division, tasked with implementing new protocols citywide, changes that might prevent the next Clara from suffering the same fate. Small victory, important one. The media attention faded. New viral videos replaced ours. The public moved on, as it always does, but something remained, settled into the fabric of our lives. Clara kept the handcuffs marks as they healed, refused cream to fade them faster. They are part of my story now, she said, not with bitterness, with acceptance. The Veterans Day parade was always a complicated day for me, memories both proud and painful. This year, I almost skipped it. Too much attention, too many eyes. Clara insisted we go, not for them, she said, for us. We stood on the sidelines, anonymous in the crowd, until Captain Vance spotted us. He approached slowly, respectfully. No uniform today, just jeans and a sweater. A father with his young son. No words exchanged at first, just presence. Then he extended his hand to Clara first. Proper protocol. She took it without hesitation. He turned to me next. Stood straight. A salute followed. Not the reflex of one from that day on the pavement. Something deeper, earned not compelled. This time, he said, I know who I'm saluting. His son watched, absorbing the moment, without understanding its context, learning something about respect that would shape him nonetheless. We watched the parade together, former adversaries standing shoulder to shoulder, not friends, not yet, maybe never, but connected by an understanding that transcended that day on the pavement. Clara squeezed my hand as the last veterans marched past. They tried to take away my dignity. She whispered, you gave it back without raising your voice. The greatest leadership lesson I never formally taught. Subscribe to Steelheart Stories if you believe silence carries power when it's backed by truth, sacrifice, and love.